This video is an introduction to invisible fences. Call it Invisible Fence 101. What are they? How do they work? And what are the different types? Hey guys, I'm Max B, and maybe you've had a problem keeping your dog within an enclosed area, or maybe you're a new dog owner and you want to know, you kind of want a way to keep the dog within your yard. Either way, you've probably heard of invisible fences, but you just may not be familiar with exactly how they work. Well, invisible fences have been around for a while. They actually were invented back in 1973, I believe, but they didn't really become popular until the 1990s. And the way they work is your pet is going to wear a collar, kind of like this one here, and the collar is going to emit a beeping sound when your dog approaches a boundary that you've predetermined, that you've kind of set up. If your dog continues over that boundary, the collar will change from a beeping sound to some other stimuli, either a vibration or a shock of different calibers. And by doing this creates kind of a virtual barrier that will keep your pet within a designated space. Anything that is not wearing a collar like this will be unaffected. So any other pets or animals or human beings will be able to cross quite freely without any problems. Now, there are two types of invisible fences. There are a wired invisible fence and a wireless invisible fence. The more common or the original was a wired invisible fence. And what that was the way you would have it, you'd have a transmitter that would be sitting like in your house and kind of plugged in, and a wire would run out of that transmitter outside around your property or whatever your designated space is, and they kind of back into that transmitter. That transmitter would emit the signal. It would go out through the wire. So when your pet got close to the wire, that is when the collar would be activated. A wireless system, in contrast, works without that wire. It's still a transmitter that you're going to put into your house, but that is going to emit out a signal, radiate one out. And when your pet gets close to the edge of that signal, that is where it will trigger the collar. So those are two different types. You have the wireless and the wired. Now you might be saying, hey Max, wait a minute, why would anybody buy a wired one? That seems like a pain. You got to bury the wire and everything. Wireless seems much easier. And yes, on the face of it, that's absolutely true. It's certainly easier in initial setup to get a wireless system going. However, a wired system, and here's some of the pros and cons between the two. A wired system is much more customizable, meaning you can be very specific on where you lay the wire. So let's just say you want your pet to have access to your whole backyard, but maybe you have a garden in the middle of it, okay? And you don't want your pet to go over the garden. Well, you can kind of wire around your whole yard and wire around that garden there to prevent the dog from going over that boundary, but allow them to other places in the yard. With a wireless system, it's not quite that easy to do. Because it kind of radiates out that signal, you can't really customize it to that degree. Also, because of kind of the way the wireless kind of radiates out, if you have the signal too strong, it might be lapping off maybe into your neighbor's property a little bit, or even worse, maybe the road. So you'd have to dial that back, in which case maybe your pet might not have access to the whole yard you want. It just might be a little more difficult to customize it. Whereas a wired one, you can be very precise on where you want it. Now, the drawback to the wired, of course, is that you actually have to bury the thing, which takes a little bit of work. It's not actually difficult to do, but you need to go around and actually bury the wire where you want it. It can be done. It took me about a Saturday afternoon to do. I live in about an acre of land, so give or take, take maybe 5-6 hours to bury that wire. It's not a very complicated process, but it does take a little bit of time. So you might say, so Max, you recommend a wired system. Yes, actually I do. However, the reason I got the system wasn't because of any research I did or any vast knowledge. The story was actually behind, I got home on a Friday one day, and my wife, God bless her, had it sitting on the counter. She actually just went out and bought the thing, and voila, there it was. And I spent the next day figuring out how to install it and installing the whole thing, and that's why we installed it. The one that we got was actually called a SportDOG brand wired in-grounds fence. And like I said, it has a wire in. I highly recommend this fence. It has worked fantastic. We installed it a couple years ago, and we've had no problems since then. You can see this is actually the original collar, and I don't know if it will show up in the video or not. Obviously, the logo is kind of wearing off because the dog's wears it every day, but we've had absolutely no problems with the collar. So it works quite well. Had we done some research, would we have bought a wireless one? No, actually we would not have. The way our property sits and kind of the way the land is, we would have ended up getting a wired one anyways, because the wireless just wouldn't really do what we wanted it to do. So we're very happy with that. So that's a kind of nutshell. You have the wired and the wireless. One last thing actually is price. Wireless tend to be a little bit more expensive than the wired system. However, if you need to hire somebody to actually install the wire, that's going to jack the cost up and probably make the wired more expensive than the wireless. But just out of the box, wireless tend to be a little bit more expensive than the wired brands. So, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's Invisible Fences 101. If you like this, you can actually go over to my website, whitedoglife.com. If you go there in the download section, there is a guide I put together, kind of a dummy's guide to installing one of these wired in-ground fences. What I had to do is just a regular little guy with not too much handyman expertise to install it, and the steps that I took to do it. It's pretty simple to go through. Once again, just go to whitedoglife.com and go to the download section for that. Other than that, I'll be putting out more videos. I think I'll be putting out some videos on actually how to install the wired fence. So stay tuned for that, and make sure to like, subscribe, wherever that button is going to be, and we will see you next time. All right, peace out, see ya.